Hello and welcome to Selling Travel TV and our latest travel talk. Today I'm joined by Ged Brown, the founder of a new company, Low Season Travel. Hi Ged, thanks for joining us.
Hello, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Well, the clue's a little bit in the name, but just tell us a little bit about Low Season Travel and what you do. And you describe yourself as a DMC, is that right?
Yeah, just because I don't know, I don't really know where we fit in the traditional model. I always think that these days, travel's moved on. From the 80s and 90s when I first joined the industry, and travel agents package holidays and are therefore tour operators, and tour operators are travel agents. And I think a lot of these terms and pigeonholes are outdated. What we are, we promote and inspire people to travel during the low seasons. So our aim was never to become a tour operator or a travel agent, but more, I suppose, a source of inspiration, and I suppose a marketing company. I guess, we're looking to help destinations and hotels and properties to market themselves during the low seasons, obviously. And that's what we did. But we started out the company as a podcast, bizarrely. So I was kind of concerned with over tourism in the world, and we'd seen a lot of that up to and including last year. I couldn't have predicted that, of course, we'd go from over tourism to zero tourism in a heartbeat. But my concern was over tourism, and I just sort of thought, look, we've got all of these different wonderful destinations around the world, and they're all attracting visitors at key times of the year. And the low season times, the times when least people travel, I know for a fact that the experience is utterly wonderful. So I wanted to highlight that as a way of, I suppose, broadening seasonality, but to do it in a proactive way. I think as an industry, we have sold the low seasons before, but it's always been price led. It's been, look, go to Tenerife, it's 200 quid or whatever else. And I don't believe that these destinations, I think they deserve better than that. I think that was almost trashing the market. I think the experience is, in my opinion, in many destinations better than it is during the peak times. So I always wanted to, through our organization, lead with, it's a wonderful experience. There are going to be fewer crowds, more opportunities for local interaction. And yeah, the icing on the cake is it's probably going to be cheaper than it would be during the high season. But that's not the main reason that you go. You go because you're going to have a wonderful experience when you're there. And that's what we wanted to try and get across. So that's how we started out. It was about alleviating over-tourism. Then fast forward to March, when we were originally going to sort of launch Low Season Traveller, and obviously coronavirus situation hit. And I suppose the bizarre consequence of that is that people are reconsidering how they travel. Certainly, we trademarked the name Travel Without the Crowds, because, it was to get away from over tourism. Now in the era of social distancing, travel without the crowds brings on a new meaning. And more of us are wanting to travel maybe without the crowds, and we might be more sort of careful of that. So I think bizarrely, wouldn't have planned it this way, but bizarrely, I think there is going to be more of a focus on low season travel. And it's a great opportunity for our industry to start promoting low season travel, because a lot of the destinations that, if you look at Southern Europe, they're not going to have a peak season like they've ever had before. And in order to make up for that shortfall, they're going to have to sell the low seasons as a result.
Sure, yeah. Well, my next question was going to be, obviously launching in the midst of a pandemic must have its challenges, but there are the opportunities as well there. Like you say, the summer holiday window has narrowed.
What's bizarre about promoting it during coronavirus is, you're right. I had friends saying to me, "Oh God, this is awful timing for you with the new business venture in the travel industry." And I was thinking, well, I might be crazy, but, right now, okay, there's no bookings coming in for us, but there's no bookings coming in for anyone. So we've just got this great leveler. Now, as a new organization, we've got a ridiculously low cost base. Now, other organizations that have been going for some time have actually got quite a high cost base, and they're having to, make people redundant and all of this kind of stuff. So actually, it's not the worst for us. I think it's worse for organizations that are out there that have been trading for a while, that have got this high cost base. I think they're really struggling. But we're not used to having any sales or revenues because we're a new organization. So for us, okay, there's not a particularly huge amount of sales and revenues coming in, but that's okay. We've never had any. Anything we get is more than we had last year because we didn't exist. So you have to kind of put a positive spin on it and just draw out the positives where you can, I
think. Well, you sound like you're very good at doing that, yeah. But
well,
I mean, definitely there's lots of opportunities here. I mean, do you think the pandemic will change the way that people travel forever? I mean, for instance, could it be that people will be more focused on avoiding crowds? I mean, obviously in the short term, but do you think things like that will stay? And what else do you think will change?
My suspicion is that parts of it will stay, and I think certain parts of the population, I think it will change. So I think, again, anecdotally, what we're hearing is that more people are looking at villa holidays, Airbnbs, accommodation where it's separate, where you're not in with a crowd at a big all-inclusive, where, the challenge for our industry is everybody wants to travel away this summer. We all do. I do as well. There's a couple of factors at play here, which is one, can we actually get the flights? The flights there because the capacity dropped by 90%. So will the flights be there? If they're there, are we allowed to go? Is there a travel advisory against travel, or can we actually travel to that destination? And that's starting to sort of come out now, and we're starting to have a clearer picture of that. Then whether or not we'll have to quarantine when we come back for 14 days. And again, we're starting to get clarity on that. And then the other big elephant in the room is what's the experience going to be like when you're actually there in resort, when you're, queuing at the buffet at a socially distanced way, when you're sat around the pool in a socially distanced way. And is that the experience that you want for your holiday if you're spending your hard-earned money? So I think that people will be thinking about that very carefully. And I think that, that they're right to think about that. So I think my sort of feeling is that, again, anecdotally, our partners at Designer Travel have said, they're getting a lot of bookings now for next year. And I'm just not sure if people are thinking, okay, for this year, we'll stick in the UK and Ireland. Next year, maybe then when we have a clearer picture of what's happening, we'll look at traveling. Will it go back to being the days of crowding in different hotels and resorts? I mean, I hope not. Really, I hope not, because I think that led us down a path where we were headed towards over tourism, and there was starting to be a revolt on that last year. So I think we need to try and balance more carefully our tourism approach, and we need to try and understand, what is sustainable and what is responsible. And I think that the consumers are starting to get that now as well. So I think, I think the habits will be changing.
Okay. I mean, all our viewers are obviously experienced travel professionals. What would you say to some of them that perhaps struggle to persuade people to go on a holiday out of season? How can they sort of seal the deal? I mean, you touched on the fact that it's not just price, but could you go into a few of those things in more depth?
Yeah, I think travel agents are actually in a great position, because travel agents, I know there haven't been as many educationals and fam trips as there was 10 sort of 20 years ago. But that's how I gained a love of travel during the low seasons, because I used to be a travel agent, and I was a tour operator, and we used to do fam trips during the low seasons because the hotels had the rooms, so they could give them to the agents. There was the flights were there and available and quite cheap. So I got to see the world by traveling during the low seasons. So a lot of the agents, they've seen these destinations during the low seasons. And, for me, I always thought the experience was pretty wonderful as I was traveling. So I think travel agents have got a unique opportunity to really, embrace this and sell the low seasons as a proactive, in a positive way. And I think what they need to understand is that this is what people are looking for. The ABTA Travel Trends Report for 2020 came out at the beginning of the year, just pre-coronavirus. And they were saying that there's a real trend now for slow travel, for considered travel and responsible travel. Well, low season travel fits all of those boxes. This, I think, is more and more what people are looking for. They're looking for an escape. One of the things I always say about low season travel as well is, look, we all, there's an element of snobbery in travel. We always like to go somewhere where nobody else has been, and we feel a bit sort of smug about that. But the fact of the matter is, there's nowhere that's undiscovered right now. And if there is anywhere that's undiscovered by people, then please God, let it stay that way. What there is, though, is there is destinations to be discovered at different times of the year. The experience in the Far East, in parts of Thailand, during the the low season, the wet season, is very different experience to other times of the year. Is it a worse experience or a better experience? Well, that depends on what you're looking for, and that depends what the clients are looking for. If they want that authentic tropical experience, then yeah, it's a wonderful time to be there. And when you speak to people in Thailand, and that's what we do through the podcasts, we speak to the locals in the destination and say, so what's the low seasons like? Is it really that bad? And they're like, no, it's wonderful. There's less people. It's just a nice, relaxed vibe to the place. And you're thinking, okay, we need to get that as an industry. We need to get that message across to people. And I think part of it is we need to alleviate the fear. And that's part of the challenge that we've got. But travel agents, they're in a great position to be able to do that because they've been to a lot of these destinations during the low seasons.
Sure. I mean, obviously for families, often it's not possible to go out of the summer season or at least the school holiday seasons. But I mean, presumably there's always somewhere in the world that's out of season.
That's a great point, Laura. And that was exactly my thought process at the beginning. So my first thought was, I like to travel during the low seasons. So my first question to myself was, okay, I know when I've got time free to travel. So say July or August. Where is low season for that month? Now, if you go into Google, you can Google, when are the low seasons in Turkey or when is the low season in Thailand, and you'll get some results and blogs and stuff. But what if you want to, when you can travel, but you want to know where is it low season? So what we did with the website is we created just a very basic kind of a map, which shows you put in the month when you can travel, and we'll show you where in the world it's low season for that given month. And then we'll show you why it's the low season, and we have to be honest about that if there's any bad stuff. But we also then have to say why it's a great time to travel. So that's what we've tried to create on the website, and that's a tool that agents can use, that the industry can use, the public can use. But it's about educating people as to why it's the low season, but also why it's a great time to travel there as well.
Yeah, and I mean, before you talked a little bit about the fear, and I suppose for a lot of British people, we like our sunshine. We sort of rely on having that guaranteed sunshine, which we can't guarantee in this country. I mean, for instance, somewhere like the Caribbean in low season, it can be fantastic. I've experienced it myself, but I've heard from other people that it can be a bit of a sort of wet weekend, as it were, or a wet week. So, I mean, how would you kind of advise agents there when you're sort of dealing? I suppose you just have to find out what the customer's sort of real deal breakers are.
I think it depends. It depends what they're looking for. If they are looking for literally, they just want sun and to lie down on a beach somewhere, then yeah, they're probably going to have to stick somewhere that is more sort of high season. If they're looking for a real, authentic experience, if they're looking to go away from the crowds, if they want to interact more with the locals, if it's more than just lying on the beach, and it's more of an immersive experience that they're looking for, then yeah, absolutely, the low seasons are open to them. But yourself, in places like the Caribbean, Antigua is a wonderful destination during the low season months. And those low season months, June, July, even August, a wonderful time to be there. If you look at the rainfall charts, you see the maximum rainfall, and you might think, whoa, okay, that looks bad. But all too often, and anybody in the Caribbean would tell you this in Antigua, is you'll get 2 or 3 hours of rain usually on an evening, actually early evening as well, and it rains like you've never seen rain in your life before. But the rest of the time it's fine, and actually the rain, it kind of adds that authenticity to it. So again, I think if you've got clients that are going to be put off by the odd rain shower, then they're not going to be low season travelers, and that's okay. It's not going to be for everyone. But I think that it is a niche, but it's a growing niche, and we're certainly seeing it more generally speaking, in the sort of under 35s and the sort of over 45s, over 50s. That's where we're starting to see more traction.
Sure, and it's that experiential trend, like you said.
Yep.
How important do you think is? I mean, you touched on sort of connecting with the locals, and presumably this is very important for communities as well, and particularly now that communities are recovering from that lack of travel, to have that spread of economic wealth throughout the year.
I think that's just it, and that's the problem of seasonality, and it's a problem that we created the seasonality issue as an industry. We did. People used to say, when's the best time to travel to? And we'd give the recommendation as to when we thought was the best time to travel to that destination. But you're right. These destinations, they need the economic spread. What you're seeing now today is you've got destinations in Southern Europe that live and die for the 5 months of the summer. And then, for the most part, they close down. There's nothing much really going on.
Mm.
Now they're having to rethink their model, because if anything happens to that one key season that you've got, you are in serious trouble. You're right. Businesses are at risk. Coffee shops, restaurants, you name it, they're all at risk. So all of these destinations now are starting to consider, okay, maybe we need to be open a little bit longer. Maybe we need to let people know what the experience is like during the low season months. And parts of Greece are wonderful during the low seasons. But how many people know about it? And how many people know what the experience is like in destinations like Greece in the low seasons? And that's what we've got to do. As an industry, we have to educate people. So we're trying our part at Low Season Traveller. But, one of the questions I had early on is, well, what if other people start to, proactively sell the low seasons? And I was like, do you know what? Honestly, good. That's what we need. Everybody needs to proactively sell the low seasons, because we can't rely on those short few months any longer, because we know there is a very good chance that coronavirus or something similar will come back again. On the BBC this morning, they were talking about another strain of a coronavirus which has been found in China, which looks like it's pretty nasty as well. So I think we need to understand that if you had a business that was reliant for 70% of its revenues from one client, you would say, okay, you need to get more clients, you need to spread it out. It's the same with seasonality. At the moment, what destinations are doing is they're putting all of their eggs in 5 months of the year. And then the rest of the year, okay, well, we don't need to worry about that because we make our money on those 5 months. In the age of COVID, that's not going to cut it anymore, unfortunately. The destinations are going to have to promote themselves year round. And actually, on our side, we need to promote them year round as well. And it's not a bad thing. It's a wonderful time to see these destinations. And that's what we need to show people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I guess even places in the UK, like Cornwall springs to mind as somewhere that's very seasonal. And
Yeah.
there's lots of experiences to be had in the winter. But places like Greece, you touched on, which was one of the ones I was thinking about. I remember going there myself a few years ago in the last week, and there was, all the hotels and the bars were having closing down parties. So presumably, for some places, you've got some kind of lobbying to do really on behalf of the industry, because you need those hotels to stay open in order for people to be able to.
But they're going to start realizing that now, and I think they're already starting to realize it, because they're not going to get that summer. They're not
Yep.
going to have that peak summer that they've had before and that they could rely on. So they're going to have to think about another way forward. An interesting part of the coronavirus, not only in the travel industry but all industries, is we've actually discovered as a world that there is something which is more important than profit, and that something is survival. And a lot of these businesses, it's shifting now from, what, it doesn't matter whether or not we're making huge profits anymore. Right now, we just need to exist for next year. We need to exist and we need to survive. And therefore, if it means opening on a sort of a strim-backed way during the low seasons, that's great. It's going to allow you to survive at least for next year. But I think the true impact of coronavirus in the travel industry, I think the effects we're only going to start to see over the next few months, as we will sadly start to see businesses failing, and that will include airlines as well.
And it's that sustainability, really, isn't it? I suppose it's sustainability for the businesses, but also for the planet. The two are linked in there.
Absolutely. At a base level, I gave a talk keynote at the World Tourism Association for Culture and Heritage a couple of weeks ago, and I was just saying, look, it's childlike in its simplicity. If you imagine the months of the year as 12 cups in front of you, and you imagine then that there's just 5 in the middle, and they're absolutely overflowing, and the solution seems to be, well, we need to try and fit more into those cups, and it's like you've got 6 cups, 3 either side, that are practically empty. Why would you try and fill those cups? That's the simplicity of it. Surely it's more responsible to broaden it out. And like I say, the seasonality issue, it's not new. We've had it forever, but we've never had to do anything about it. And bizarrely, coronavirus mixed with that problem of over-tourism, which we did have, that's starting to sharpen people's focus on, okay, now's the time we actually have to do something about this.
Okay, so on that subject, what are your tips for the coming months? Obviously, we're still waiting for more details from the government, but sort of, I guess your sort of August, September, where are the places that are out of season that you would recommend personally?
Well, I suppose the really important part for August and September is, right now with coronavirus, everywhere is low season. And it was interesting. So I was looking at the website before as to, where traditionally is the low season in the likes of August and September. But here's the reality. Italy is going to have a low season feel to it and a low season experience to it all summer. They're not, we can see the volumes already. They're not going to have those volumes. So actually, now is a wonderful time if if you've got clients who would embrace the authenticity of a low season break. Actually, now you can go to Italy. You can probably have a low season experience in Venice. You'll never get that experience during the summer months ever again, possibly. So what a wonderful time to see Rome, to see Venice. I've never been to Venice, and genuinely, with what was going on with over tourism, I thought, okay, I've probably missed the boat here, literally, because I always thought when I saw the pictures which were crowded in Venice, I thought, you know what, that's not an experience I want. I want to experience Venice, but not like that. Actually, this summer, I could experience Venice the way in which I want to experience it. I think this summer has given us a great opportunity for those that are, brave enough, who are low season travelers. They like to go against the flow. I would say go to those European places this summer because you are going to have a low season experience.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, what are your some of your personal favorite places in general for out of season? You talked about going on fun trips in the past
Yeah.
when you were an agent. Can you take us through some of the places that really surprised you the most?
Yeah, I mean, one that springs out to mind, which is actually very close by as well, Valencia. Valencia is just a wonderful low season destination. I've been to Valencia, many times actually during the winter months, and it's just glorious and it's so quiet. I mean, at the best of times, it was never as busy as Barcelona and Madrid, but in the low season months, you're less than 2 hours from the UK. And it's gloriously sunny. The weather really is fantastic. You're eating outside, no crowds. Sometimes you very rarely see any other tourists, and it's just a wonderful experience. Plus, it's just a beautiful city anyway. I love the Far East during the rainy season, partly because you get that tropical feel to the place. So even when you're on the beach resorts and the rain rolls in about 3 o'clock and you run up to that sort of thatched shack and the rain's raining so hard and everybody that's in there that's just running off the beach and everybody knows they're not leaving till this rain has passed. So we're all kind of stuck there and you're exchanging stories and it's just kind of cool watching the rain rolling in from over the sea. So those kind of experiences, for me personally, I just absolutely adore that. And then you have places nearer to home like Belfast. Belfast in the winter is glorious. And I did a trip. Actually, I'm releasing a video on it later on, actually in the next week, where I went in January. And I got lucky. I was there for 3 days, and it was gloriously sunny and dry. All right, it was cold. To be fair, it was cold. But what a wonderful experience it was. It was half the price of what I would have paid usually during the peak months. But you're in the pubs there with the live music, all of the crack, not a huge amount of tourists there. Wonderful experience. And let's face facts, you don't go to Belfast for the weather because frankly, you could get a washout. Well, the weather here in Manchester is a washout today. You could get it in the summer, you could get a washout. So, again, another fabulous destination that I couldn't recommend highly enough.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for that. And for travel agents that will be watching this, I mean, obviously your website is a resource for them. Like you said, you've got the map on there, and they can access the podcasts as well. And what else do you have on there that they could use?
Absolutely. So we've got podcasts. We've got a whole load of different articles and inspirational articles for people, which they can share with anybody else. We've got the podcasts. We've got videos. We're actually just going to be starting Low Season Traveler TV soon, where we're going to be showing people what it's like during the low seasons. And it's all, it's like we said before, it's all about alleviating the fear and showing people there's nothing to fear from traveling in the low seasons, and that actually it is a wonderful experience. So there's a whole heap of content on there, and an awful lot more coming online in the next couple of weeks and months as well.
And just lastly, I remember one thing that I didn't prompt you on, actually, that I read on your website. There was a statistic there that was really interesting about the amount of people that travel in high season, I think. Could you just tell us that?
Yeah, it's anecdotally really, but it's from the UNWTO World Tourism Organization, the tourism barometer which they have, and you can see from that it's about 70% of all people travel during the key peak months in any given destination, which means that there's only 30% that are traveling the rest of the time, which means that it's, you know, it's a really quiet time. And if you want to avoid the crowds and the stress and have more opportunity for local interaction, then, you know, clearly the low season months is absolutely the way to go. And we also have on the site as well, we've done, again, we do our own sort of research on this, but we do statistics on what the high season ratio of locals to tourists is and the low season ratio of locals to tourists, just to demonstrate how you can have more local interaction, because that's a key part of it for a lot of travelers, is they want to really mix with the local culture and really immerse themselves into it. So we have that on there too.
Okay, great. Well, it's definitely a challenge for travel agents then, I would say.
It is. It's a challenge, but it's a wonderful challenge to have, and we've never had a better opportunity in the history of the travel industry to actually finally crack the seasonality issue. And it's, you know, be unafraid. Let's have confidence in our destinations during all seasons, not just the key seasons.
Definitely. Well, thanks very much for giving up your time, Ged, and best of luck with it all. And yeah, stay in touch.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Laura. Thank you.